Hey guys, welcome to Mzansi and USA News. Today we are going to talk about President Ramaphosa's response regarding Dipuo Peter's case in Parliament. Firstly, we need to ascertain what is it that Dipuo Peter has been found guilty of doing. Ramaphosa suspends Deputy Minister Dipuo Peter for 1 month. Right. President Cyril Ramaphosa has suspended Deputy Minister of Small Business Development Dipuo Peter from her portfolio for a month. It's a double whammy for Peters, who's currently serving a suspension from all parliamentary business for a term after its Joint Ethics Committee in 2023 found she had breached the Code of Ethical Conduct during her time as a Minister of Transport. The sanctions stem from a complaint laid against her by a lobby group, Unite Behind, that she behaved negligently in the execution of her duties while overseeing the beleaguered Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa, otherwise known in short as Prasa. In January, Peters went to court in an attempt to contest Parliament findings and to stop it from suspending her from all parliamentary business until the end of this month. But her urgent application was struck from the roll. While Unite Behind has been calling on the president to fire her, he's taken a softer approach. Presidential spokesperson Vincent Magwenya said, quote, "The suspension, which will be without pay, became effective on the 28th of February and will end on the 28th of March, close quote. Parliament considered complaints against Peters that she had unfairly fired the Prasa board in 2017 when it uncovered widespread corruption at the agency. She was also accused of authorizing the use of Prasa buses for African National Congress events that were never paid for. Peters has been implicated in the Zondo Commission of Inquiry report for her handling of the transport portfolio during the state capture years. Ramaphosa has, however, not acted against any of the ministers implicated by the inquiry. So that's the background basically as to what has happened. You see, she was found guilty of violating the code of ethics, right, of the executive. And she also was found guilty of using Prasa buses for the ANC function, which were never paid. Can you see that? Of course, Zondo Commission came to the same conclusion that she partook in a breach of her responsibilities during the state capture years. Now let's see what the president gave as a reason as to why he decided to simply suspend her and not fire her. Ramaphosa defends decision to suspend Peters over state capture involvement. President Cyril Ramaphosa said that his decision to suspend and not to fire Deputy Minister Dipuo Peter for her state capture involvement was a fitting sanction. He also said the decision to suspend Peters for a month without pay was his alone. Ramaphosa defended his decision at his last question and answer, where MPs questioned him for not firing the Small Business Development Deputy Minister. Peters' state capture breaches are that she dismissed the Prasa board 3 months before the end of its term, allegedly to prevent the findings of a probe into billions in irregular expenditure. President Ramaphosa's decision to suspend Peters followed Parliament's Ethics Committee finding that Peters had breached the Code of Ethical Conduct in her former portfolio as a Minister of Transport. Freedom Front Plus leader Peter Groenewald asked Ramaphosa why he suspended Peters for only 1 month instead of removing her from office. Quote, "In my views, the sanction imposed on her was commensurate with her breaches this House found her to have committed over and above the sanction imposed by this House," close quote. That was the President Ramaphosa's response. Ramaphosa said the decision ended with him ultimately. Right or wrong, but in the end, I'm the one who took the action and based on a number of factors, including what Parliament decided, because in the end, it is the President who decides. Ramaphosa said other implicated people had not been sanctioned yet, and this would be informed by the outcomes of processes undertaken by other law enforcement agencies. Now, this is quite remarkable. It is really quite remarkable. Why do I believe that is remarkable? First and foremost, we have to bear in mind that the Zondo Commission costed this country a lot of money, to therefore ignore deliberately their finding, for me, is nothing short of treason by President Ramaphosa. In the sense that we have a commission that have spent billions of rands and having experts in law, and then you decide it's my decision to make as the president and I have made it. To me, that doesn't follow. In the face of the Zondo Commission, in the face of the Joint Ethics Committee of Parliament, it doesn't follow. Remember, the Joint Ethics Committee of Parliament has no authority to dismiss a minister. Hence, they made the decision that they made. As a result, this statement over here by President is incorrect. Listen to what the President says. He says here, right or wrong, this statement over here, right or wrong, but in the end, I'm the one who took the action based on a number of factors which he has not disclosed. And then he says, including what Parliament decided, because in the end, it's the president who decide. What Parliament decided on was simply because Parliament could not dismiss a minister. But the president should be informed by what the parliamentary report is on the issue. The minister violated a code of good ethics. Now, that person is now showing in the ANC's list to Parliament again. Can you see that? Now, Robert Kennedy, a current politician running for president in the USA right now as we speak, said in a recent Breakfast Club interview, quote, "I'm not going to appoint any committee or commission to investigate this matter because that is synonymous with politicians who have no interest in acting on the matter," close quote. So Kennedy, in essence, is saying, appointment of commissions of inquiry like the Zondo Commission is something done by politicians when they have no interest of acting against the very corruption. How befitting a statement considering that President Ramaphosa has received multiple volumes of report from Zondo and he has not acted at all. Same story with the Nugent Commission of Inquiry. But nevertheless, let's go back then to the story over here, rather my analysis of the story. It is noteworthy that Dipuo Peter abused her authority to usurp her authority over the board, which is exactly what she has done. For me, is a dismissible offense. Why? There is a reason why there is separation of powers, or rather segregation of duties between the board, let's start the minister, which is a shareholder, the board of directors, management, and the rest of the staff within the organization. There's a reason why those duties are segregated. They are segregated so as for good corporate governance to flourish. In the event that these non-compatible functions are not segregated, then corruption will run rampant. If the board were to usurp the authority of management or the accounting officer, then the board ought to be removed from power. If the accounting officer usurps the authority of management that reports to her, the same is true. So why should this be any different because it is a politician? This is an own goal by President Ramaphosa. Let's look at what ChatGPT calls good corporate governance. What is corporate governance? That was the question I asked ChatGPT. Corporate governance refers to a system of rules, practices, and processes by which a company is directed and controlled. Can you see that? Rules and what? Rules, practices, and processes. So this woman went and took and dismissed the board when they uncovered a widespread corruption amounting to billions of rands in irregular expenditure. That is completely not acceptable because that's not her money, that's the taxpayer's money. So corporate governance involves balancing the interests of various stakeholders, such as shareholders. Why is she a shareholder? She's a shareholder by reason of being a politician who's been what? Hired by us voters into that office, and therefore she's supposed to represent us well. So it involves balancing the interests of various shareholders, such as, it involves balancing the interests of various stakeholders such as shareholders, management, customers, suppliers, financiers, government, and the community. The primary objectives of corporate governance are to ensure transparency, accountability, fairness, and ethical behavior in the management of an operation and operation of a company, which things have now been subverted by her usurping the authority of the board. When she dismissed the board, transparency was cut short, accountability was removed, and the process was entirely unfair and it was completely unethical. Hence, in my view, she should be found guilty of gross negligence and be removed from that position. In any case, we can't as taxpayers trust her going forward. Think about it. One more thing I would like us to look at is just administrative action, which is recorded in our constitution, the supreme law of our land, section 33. Of course, this deals with administrative authority. That means the administration, whether it be national, provincial, or municipal. Everyone has a right, that is section 33.1, everyone has a right to administrative action that is lawful, reasonable, and procedurally fair. Can you see that Dipuo Peter violated all these three when it came to that board? Everyone whose rights have been adversely affected by administrative action has a right to be given written reasons as to why, obviously, that decision was made. National legislation must be enacted to give effect to these rights and must provide for the review of administrative action by a court of law, by a court, or, where appropriate, an independent and impartial tribunal. Impose a duty on the state to give effect to the rights in subsection 1 and 2 and promote an efficient administration. Now, whilst this may be argued that it is not applicable to politicians, I quoted it to point out to you that a higher standard is expected of politicians. If this is what politicians expect from administrative authorities in the departments, and administrative authorities are accounting officers, and indeed the board can be regarded as an administrative authority. However, the MECs and the NEs and the ministers are executing authorities. So the administrative authority, therefore, must be held to account to this standard. And the law referred to here, that in paragraph 3, is PAJA, right? Now, PAJA does state categorically that failure to give these written reasons by an administrative authority must be regarded by a tribunal that sits to adjudicate on the matter, that it had no basis in fact. Meaning, when an administrative authority fails to give written reasons within 90 days as to why they made the decision that they made, then the tribunal adjudicating over the matter should come to a conclusion that that decision by that administrative authority was null and void. It had no basis in fact or law for that matter. You can check this out for yourself in PAJA. I think it's paragraph 5 of PAJA. Nevertheless, what is the point that I'm making? The point that I'm making is this. The same way Dipuo Peter usurped the authority of the board, the president is usurping the authority of parliament and is undermining parliament, because parliament has made a decision to suspend this woman because they have no authority to fire her. But paying attention to the details and the report given by parliament that she has violated the code of ethics, for me, the powers vested in the office of the president do not allow the president to keep a corrupt official as a deputy minister. That goes without saying. For the president to state that the decision ended with him ultimately is an indication of either a lack of understanding on his part of what that decision entails, or simply disdain for the rule of law. Perhaps if we define the role of the board, we would have a better understanding of how a gross violation Peter's breach was, and hence I went the route that I did, where I've defined what is the role of the board. I've defined what is corporate governance, and the intention for me doing that was to precisely get to the point in which we have now gotten to, namely the president and Peters. Firstly, Peters was at fault as found by the joint committee, and the president is at fault in making a decision to go soft on her based on what I've just shown you here in the constitution, that a higher standard than this would obviously be expected. And the president also is misunderstanding, in my view, When you are an authority in any organization, you don't simply say it's my decision and that's it. If the law expects written reasons from junior people, from the president, why should the president not give? The reasons may not be written by the president, but they must be said categorically. But if they are not written, it's not a higher standard. We expect a higher standard from the president. So I'm correcting that view. We expect a higher standard from the president. So I think Ramaphosa once again has failed to seize an opportunity to demonstrate that he is pro-good governance and anti-corruption. That's my view on this one, guys. You tell me what you think. Because the law is clear. If an administrative action or authority is expected just by simply making a decision that detrimentally affects one employee, how much consideration should the president have given to Peter's action? Especially considering the amounts involved. You tell me what you think. That's my view. Until the next video, ciao ciao. Oh, before that, please click the like and share the video. And for those of you who have not yet subscribed, please subscribe. Let's grow the channel. This channel has now been growing, but it's a slow growth. We expect, I anticipate a little bit more. So let's grow the channel. Help me to grow the channel and spread the message out there, because it is very important. The issues that I discuss on this channel, if you believe that they are is equally important, please share with as many people as possible. The president, in my view here, has dropped the ball and has scored an own goal once again, and he demonstrates himself to be an individual who is literally incompetent. There's a word I'm literally looking for in my mind, but for the lack of that word, I'll simply use he's incompetent to carry out his obligations imposed by his office. It is expected. The correct word I was looking for is he is delinquent. Because you cannot say someone that has been found wanting of the code of ethics should stay in the office, because we are saying the public should place trust in a person who's not trustworthy. That's the main issue here. Okay, guys, that's it. Ciao, ciao.